Every single person in their life has moments that come up where they feel a level of breakdown. Every single person in the world has moments that just bring them to their knees. You know, something that happens sometimes daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Sometimes people have reoccurring issues that just pop into their life, but they have that moment where they don't have any more to give. It's a moment. Doesn't mean that it's going to last forever. For some people, they struggle with that moment over and over and over again. But I want to talk a little bit about breakdown and how I deal with it and how you might want to learn from that, and I can learn from you, because I'm always interested in learning how other people are coping with the day-to-day activities of challenges. And I think for high performers, and when I say high performers, I want to qualify this. High performers are all of you that are doing a lot every single day, that want to be great at something, that want to give more to the world than the world's giving to them. You could be a student developing, your sport and becoming the great athlete and great student. You could be in your 20s and developing your next path for your career. Or you could be running a company with 150 employees and people all over the place, and it's every day a level of chaos that you restore order to. But the reality is every one of us at some point in time has a moment where it's a lot, it's too much. And it's emotional sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental. I mean, I have a lot of tactics I use that help me cope with this. And it's really things that I feel are great when I have time to truly separate and remove myself. But sometimes it's a moment in time. It's something. I'll give you an example. I was in on a recent trip, and I got picked up a little late to get to the airport, and we hit 55 minutes of traffic on a 15-minute trip to the airport. My boarding time and my arrival time were now the same. I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to traveling and doing these things, so I'm getting into a little bit of okay, it'll be fine, but I'm on the tail end of a long travel schedule. I just want to get home. And I also woke up at 5:30 in the morning, had a 6 a.m. meeting. I had already lived a full day by the time I got in that car, of which the driver acknowledges that we probably picked the wrong time, and he begins driving like Mario Andretti or Jeff Gordon through the streets of Chicago. And starting, stopping, speeding. It's crazy. I mean, my car sickness is leveling up. My gut is uncomfortable. My heart's racing. And I'm like, I just want to get to the airport. I'm actually calm in my brain, but I don't feel great. So I get there, I get to the gate, I get through TSA, I get through all these things, and here's what happens. I get a text from a very close person to me, and it's about somebody who recently just lost their life. And man, it hits me in a moment where I'm absolutely frozen. I have to run to the gate. I have to cope with this information that just came in. I am empathizing at a level that I don't normally even feel. Like, I'm an empathetic person, but this has just stopped me. I almost can't walk. And I had to stop for a moment and just literally pause and process it. Think of the right thing I could respond back to that in the moment, and then take enough to get to the gate. Where I get to the gate, and it's the chaos that normally ensues at a gate before boarding. And I had another moment where I'm just sitting there, and all I can think about is the family. All I can think about are the people that I love and how that would impact me. And you know what? I consider that a breakdown moment. It was a moment where I had already done more in my day by 9:30 than I could do in a whole day some days, and it was too much. It was just too much. And it wasn't even happening to me. It was happening to someone I cared about, and that was too much. But was it the moment that was too much for me? Or was it all the other things adding up and it just becoming something that I had to take a step back? And it really made me think. It's funny because I ended up getting on the plane, and I I started to listen to a business book, and I genuinely started to zone out, and the first like 3 paragraphs are read on Audible, and I just shut it off. And instead I put on Green Light by Matthew McConaughey, and it was a completely relaxing ride, and I separated. But I really started to think of a couple of things. Number one is everybody experiences this. Sometimes you experience this and it blindsides you, and it swipes you down and you can't get out of the rut. Sometimes this type of thing takes someone down because they're doing so much that they can't actually continue at that pace. And the body's giving you reminders, the mind's giving you reminders, physically, mentally, emotionally. All these things happen for a reason. I like to use the analogy of your car, right? Everybody understands a car. Your gas light comes on about once every few days or once a week, but it's a constant reminder that you need refilling. We all are like that. We actually need daily or weekly reminders that we need to fill up on what we need to function. So it's a great analogy for us to understand. And then there's bigger ones, right? The oil light comes on, and you've got to change the oil every quarter on a regular basis. Now, for those of you with Teslas and electric cars, I don't know how that works. I don't have one. But let's assume there's maintenance that's needed, okay? For this example, the oil comes on quarterly. These are bigger items. They add up a little bit quicker, and if you run the car with no oil, you will break it down even quicker. And then if you do something like that, the check engine light comes on. The check engine light means something drastic is wrong. Could be small, could be big, but you gotta check it out right now. And the reality is, breakdown is a part of success. Breakdown is a part of anything you do in your life because it's going to happen on a regular basis. Daily fill-up reminders, weekly to quarterly oil reminders, right? The whole body is not running at the level that it should. And then the few times where it just has to be that hard reset, the separation, you've got to take the car in and get it looked at. I found there's a couple of things that we can do though to really get through these moments. Number one is acknowledge it. I stopped in that airport for a reason. I knew that what I was reading and what I was feeling was so big, I couldn't move. I needed to stop and acknowledge what was happening and be present in that moment. I needed to think of the other person on the other end of that text. I needed to think of the families that were impacted. I needed to acknowledge and empathize at a level that went beyond what I had time to do. But we do it because acknowledging it allows us to process it. And the truth is, once I acknowledge it, I have to listen to what my body and my mind and my brain are actually telling me. Now, by listening, I'm actually able to process it. I'm able to think. I'm able to expand upon how I feel. Is this something that's check engine light level? Or is this something that's just a daily fill-up? For me, it was a daily fill-up. The truth was, I had hit a max on that day already. The emotions, the physicality, I was tired, I was in a different time zone. I mean, all the excuses you can think about, but honestly, I was finished. And I was at my point of acknowledging and processing and listening. And then I needed a hard reset. I needed that hard reset. The next step is really the reset. My reset I described to you was small. It was stop working for a moment and just play. Stop thinking, just listen. Stop processing, just sit back and think. Before I put on green lights, I actually put on my Hallow app, which I use almost every day. And I actually just listened to some meditation and some scripture. And I did some things that get my head in a good spot. That's what I did. And then I separated to play and to listen. By the time I got home, I felt great. I felt recharged. I did not feel great about what I had to process. I had to go over that when I got back in. But the truth was, I was ready for it. I wasn't running on empty anymore. I was in a moment where I could process it. See, I really believe that breakdown is something that if you can learn to process, if you can learn to acknowledge, if you can learn to listen to your body, to your mind, to your emotions, you'll be more successful. You're actually able to stack more and more on your brain, on your physicality, on your emotional state. If you can actually learn to focus and visualize what it feels like in these moments. If you've been there before, you're prepared. If you've never been there and you act like you've never been there, it breaks you. See, breakdown does not need to become breakage. You don't need the check engine light to make you actually fail and break down on the side of the road. That's not what you're aiming for. Because then guess what? You're a horrible husband or wife. You're a bad friend. You're not able to be the worker that you want to be. You're not able to serve your clients, serve your people, serve your business, whatever it is. It breaks down everything. And you don't want to break down everything. You want it to be a simple reminder, an indication, a notification, just like you get on your phone. Hey, too much today, too much this month, too much this year. Reset. Time to step back and assess. Time to recourse. I have other steps that I use and I walk you through this. I will make sure that there's a link in this video so you can actually tap through how I use my 4 quadrants of life for high performance life, love, impact, faith, and energy. How I actually go through the process when this becomes too much to handle and it becomes a check engine light. Or maybe it's just to check the oil. But for me, I have a very, very stringent process that I go through, and it allows me to actually brain dump everything that's on my plate so I can get ahead again. Thank God I use that, because that allows me to keep from breaking down on the side of the road. And I hope this helps you, because the truth is, every time I do a video like this, my number one goal, my number one objective is that I'm helping one person learn something that they may not know, or remind them of something they already knew they're just not doing. Maybe we're helping one person cope with something to know that it's okay to break down. It's just how you react and respond to it after that matters. Feel free to click on the video that actually shows you the process for working through the bigger ones, the bigger moments, the bigger disruptions, the biggest breakdowns. But remember, it's how we actually cope with the small ones that lead up to the big ones. And if we learn to cope with the small ones, the larger breakdowns become more palatable. We're ready for them. We're prepared. So hope this helps you today.